Look, if you're a farmer in Kenya right now, take advantage of this before it is too late. Maize farming is becoming very lucrative now in the country. The rest of this video will be dedicated to teaching you how to start maize farming in Kenya and how to create a sustainable business around it. Here is a detailed step-by-step guide on maize farming that has helped thousands of people around the world. Guys, pay attention to this part. I promise it will help you so much. For the marketing aspect, I will share my top 4 secrets that I use all the time to sell my maize with ease and get premium prices at the end of this video. So hit that subscribe button and let's dive in already. Here is how much you will need to start a 1-acre maize farm in Kenya. Let's assume that you are planting in the long rain season and you already have a land. Labor cost for clearing or weeding the land will cost you about 1,500 shillings. Plowing will cost you about 3,000 shillings per acre. When it comes to seed, you will need 10 kilograms for 1 acre land if you use the recommended spacing of 75 centimeters by 25 centimeters. Since 1 kilogram of seed costs about 210 shillings, you will spend about 2,100 on seed. You will need about 36 kilograms of diammonium phosphate and use as a basal fertilizer during planting. That will cost about 1,800 shillings. You will also buy about 40 kilograms of urea, which will cost you about 2,000. And finally, you will buy a foliar fertilizer during the active growing stage. This costs about 500 shillings for 1 acre plot. Labor cost for planting the seeds will cost you about 1,500. And you also likely weed the farm 2 times before you harvest. And labor for that can cost up to 3,000 shillings. Cost for fertilizer application costs around 750 shillings. You will also likely apply some pesticides, alright? Since fall armyworm was introduced into Africa in 2016, there is not a single time you will plant maize and it will not be infested. It will cost you about 1,500 shillings for labor involved in applying pesticides. And for buying pesticide against fall armyworm, this will typically cost about 1,500 for 1 acre farm. Manual labor for dehusking and shelling will cost you about 3,500 shillings after you harvest. In all, you will need a total of at least 23,000 to produce maize on 1 acre plot. Let's leave some room for unexpected costs that may arise, so at minimum budget about 30,000 shillings for a 1 acre maize farm. Now let's look at how much you can make in revenue from this business. According to the government reports and statistics, the average yield of maize plantation stood at 22.8 bags per hectare as of 2023. This means that your 1 acre farm can produce approximately 10 90 kilogram bags. Now, the farm gate price for the 90 kilogram bag stands at 4,000 shillings. And if you sell your maize at this price per each bag, you will make a revenue of 40,000 shillings. If you take out your expenses of 30,000, you will get a profit of about 10,000 shillings. And that is over 33% profit returns on your investment, which is very good if you ask me, knowing that you just planted 1 acre and it takes only 3 to 4 months to harvest. And also remember that you can do some of the work yourself and reduce your expenses. Example, you can choose to do the planting or the fertilizer application by yourself. That way you will reduce your expenses drastically, which will in turn increase your profits. Now that we know how profitable maize farming is, let's go ahead and talk about the main reason why we are here. The best way to start your maize farming business. Guys, at this point, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. It motivates me a lot to make more of these videos. You can also like and share the video to people who you care about if you are not a farmer yourself. Thank you for doing so. The first step in maize farming in general is to acquire the best piece of land for your maize cultivation. How large the size of land should be depends on you, but I recommend getting a large piece of land if you really mean business. However, if you only have a small piece of land, it shouldn't stop you from doing something. Preferably, get a deep, fine structured, well aerated, well drained loamy soil type of land that are rich in organic matter. This is proving to give the highest yield from maize plantations. Okay, choosing the land isn't difficult at all. Once you have settled on the land, it's time to start preparing the land for cultivation. And one mistake people keep doing in their farms is they jump straight to planting whatever they want to plant without preparing the soil first. The well-being of your crop largely depends on the conditions under which they are cultivated. Taking 1 to 2 weeks to prepare the soil before planting will go a long way to improve the yield and health of your crops. But how do you actually prepare the soil? Well, it's simple. Remember I mentioned the recommended soil requirements for maize: a deep, fine-structured, well-aerated, well-drained loamy soil. By soil preparation, this is what you want to achieve. Start by tilling or plowing the soil. This makes the soil loose and become fine-structured, well-aerated and well-drained. This also ensures better growth and development of the seed into a mature plant. If you have animal manure you want to apply, you can mix it in the soil at this point. Remember, regardless of the soil type and the land you secure for your business, it should go through these same preparation stages. And once that is done, you should go ahead and choose your preferred type of seed. About the seed though, there is a serious controversy around local seeds versus genetically modified seeds, aka GMOs. Back in 2012, the government banned GMO imports over health concerns. But in October 2022, President William Ruto lifted that ban to combat food shortages after the tough 2022 harvest of just 2.9 million metric tons of maize. Those who support GMOs say that GMO maize could improve yield by 20 to 40% and cut pesticide costs. However, other people, including farmers' unions and environmentalists, are sounding the alarm about health risk, biodiversity loss, and reliance on big seed companies like Monsanto. Some people in Kenya are even calling GMO seeds poisonous.
We are working towards as scientists to ensure that those indigenous crops are improved and brought into the market so that the farmers will continue enjoying them in certified manner to ensure that you are guaranteed of the quality of the material.
So which one do I think you should go for? I would say go for a non-GMO hybrid option such as Pioneer or Sour Hybrid. Reason number one is most Kenyans don't trust GMO products, so selling your produce will be a problem. And number two, no European country allows its people to consume any GMO produce. They have banned its cultivation and they only import and use it as animal feed. To be on the safe side, stick with local hybrids. But you should also be careful when choosing your hybrid seeds because some of these seeds are manufactured such that after you cultivate and harvest, you cannot grow the seeds again. You need to buy new seeds after every growing season. If you do, it's either the seeds will rot in the soil or will germinate but cannot grow well. And I will not mention any specific products for obvious reasons, but do your own digging and avoid these seeds. Once your seeds are ready and your land is prepared, let's go ahead and start sowing the seeds. Plant maize seeds at a depth of about 1.5 to 2 inches in the soil. Optimal plant density varies, but it is recommended to plant 18,000 to 30,000 plants per acre, depending on the specific maize variety. Now, maize is a warm season crop, so plant seeds when the soil temperature reaches at least 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius for proper germination. The best temperature for germination is 75 degrees Fahrenheit or 24 degrees Celsius. The population of maize plants on a piece of land is also an important determiner of the plant's health. Adequate row spacing is essential for proper air circulation and sunlight exposure. The recommended spacing is typically 75 centimeters between rows and 40 centimeters between plants within a row. Let's talk about one of the most essential aspects of maize farming that you should probably know if you want to make a difference. You can't succeed in maize farming today if you don't know about effective pest control techniques. The fall armyworm is your greatest enemy when it comes to maize farming business. This pest can cause you a loss of more than 50% in your business. From studies, the estimated mean national yield loss due to fall armyworm in Kenya was over 35% of the total production in 2018, with a cash value of over 30 million Kenyan shillings. Fall armyworm is a polyphagous and highly mobile insect which was first detected in West Africa in early 2016. Since its introduction, the insect has significantly impacted livelihoods of small-scale farmers across the continent. It is possible to control them, but expensive. Here is how you do it. After 4 weeks of germination, start visiting your farm frequently and look for signs of infestation. This ensures that you detect it early, as it is key in preventing excessive loss. Once you see few plants infested, there are 3 classes of pesticides that are proven to be very effective against fall armyworm. The first group is spinosines. This class of insecticide works by disrupting the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors of the insect's nervous system. This mechanism of action makes this class of insecticide very selective in destroying the target insects and leaving the beneficial predators. This is helpful as it doesn't kill all the microorganisms in the soil as part of the target insects. Spinosines does not destroy only matured insects but also their larvae and eggs. Some examples of this class are anthrust and success new. We also have the ivermectin benzoates. It works by penetrating the leaf tissue and forming reservoir within treated leaves, which provides residual activity against pests that ingest the plant substance when feeding. Examples of ivermectin benzoates you can use to control fall armyworm are Affirm and Proclaim. The last class of insecticide I personally find effective against fall armyworm is the chlorantraniliprole group. Chlorantraniliprole binds to a specific receptor in the insect's muzzles called the ryanodine receptor. When the chemical binds to this receptor, it causes muzzles to leak calcium. The muzzles stop working normally, the insect is paralyzed and dies. Some examples of this group are Altacol and Coragen. Once you have your insecticide figured out, spray your farm at least once in 3 weeks depending on the particular insecticide you get. This is essential because fall armyworm is very persistent and migrates so quickly from farm to farm. For instance, if you treat your maize farm and there is a nearby farm that is infested, expect to see your farm infested again as soon as the chemical loses its power. And this is why you need to keep treating the farm until your plants start to silk. At this stage, if your farm isn't heavily infested already, the plants will be healthy until you harvest, even without additional treatments. Maize takes about 12 to 16 weeks to reach maturity. Hence, you may need to spray the farm at least 3 times in 3 weeks intervals, depending on how persistent your farm gets infested. Note that I am unable to recommend any dosage of the chemicals since I do not know what specific agrochemical you will get. I advise that you use it as prescribed by the chemist at the shop you buy it. There is one more thing I'll talk about, and after that I will go to the most important step in building a successful maize farming business, which is fertilization. But for now, let's look at weed control. If your farm can be weeded manually, that is the perfect way to go about it because you will not need to worry about the effect of herbicides on your farm. However, if that is not possible depending on the size of your farm, you may still have options like post-emergence herbicides. The last thing you would want to do is to sow your seeds, let it germinate and ignore it to stay in the bushes. Maize hates weeds as it suppresses its growth and health. Weed in your farm will also bring in several pests to make sure that your hard work is ruined. So weigh your options. If labor cost for weeding will be too much in your situation, consider using a pre-emergence herbicide on the piece of land before sowing your seed to prevent germinated weed seedlings from becoming established. Also consider using post-emergence herbicides to control weed in your farm after they have already emerged from the soil. There are post-emergence herbicides specifically made for maize and other narrow-leaved crops designed to target and destroy both grasses and broadleaf weeds, leaving all narrow plants healthy. Some examples of these herbicides are Nicogold, Amine Spray, and Maize. If you have followed up till now and you are going to implement what you've learned so far, you are 80% more likely to succeed in this business. The last step I will talk about before going into the marketing aspect is fertilization. There are 2 important things you should know when it comes to fertilization. One is what fertilizer to apply, and the second is how to apply it. A 2022 study showed that 70% of Kenyan farmers use inorganic fertilizers in their farms, but only 30% of them do it the right way. And the fact is that applying no fertilizer at all is better than applying fertilizers the wrong way because you will just lose your money. To be able to effectively use fertilizers, it starts with knowing the nutrient structure of your land. It is very important. It is just like how a car manufacturing company must have extensive knowledge on the basic principles of manufacturing. That is how important it is to know the land you have as a farmer. The most general soil condition in Kenya is 80% of fields lack nitrogen and 60% lack phosphorus. But this statistic is not enough. You need to perform a soil test first, which costs about 1,000 shillings. This helps you identify the nutrient needs of your land so you don't overuse or underuse fertilizers. Once you have done this and know exactly how much nutrients you need, there are 3 fertilization stages you must follow: the basal fertilization, top dress fertilization, and foliar fertilization. Basal application fertilizers are applied near the base of the sown seed, usually the same day of sowing the seed. For maize, the most important nutrient necessary at this early stage is phosphorus. Phosphorus provides the energy the seed needs to split open. It also helps the plant develop strong roots as soon as it germinates. Get, for example, a fertilizer like diammonium phosphate and bury just a little, about 5 to 10 grams, 2 inches below and 2 inches beside each hole containing 2 seeds. After this, the next fertilization will be at the stem elongation stage. This stage begins about 5 to 6 weeks after germination. This growth stage can predict the number of grains that will develop in each cob row. At this stage of the plant's growth, corn need the most nitrogen along with plenty of water and other nutrients. It is therefore necessary to this time apply a fertilizer with higher nitrogen content. For example, urea. This fertilizer provides the most nitrogen for plant when it needs it the most. It is applied by spreading it around the plants. However, do not pour it very close to the plants because it can burn it. The last fertilization that is also very important is foliar fertilization. Foliar fertilizers are liquid fertilizers containing key micronutrients that plants require to yield big and healthy fruits. The key macro and micronutrients maize require to produce big fruits are potassium, manganese, copper, zinc, boron, and molybdenum. One of such fertilizer is the Yara Vita Crop Lift Bio. Foliar fertilizers are applied as a spray to the leaves and stalk of the plant. The nutrient in it gets absorbed into the leaves right away and the plant starts flourishing. The time to apply this fertilizer is when the plant is actively silking. Now, note that this is not the only way to go about it. You may have other ways you have done this, and I would love to know about it in the comment section. What I have taught you so far has proven to be very effective and has been replicated by many farmers around the world. And I'm confident it will give you same results if you follow it carefully. Now, the marketing aspect. The first question you should ask is, how is maize used in Kenya? Research shows that about 70 to 80% of the country's maize production goes into household consumption, and 15 to 20% goes to animal feed processing. With this in mind, here are the 4 most effective ways to sell your maize in Kenya. Number 1. Food processors. Have you thought about the fact that almost every shop, bar, and restaurant across all the regions in the country procure some amount of maize for their daily operations? The only thing it takes to start working with these business entities is reaching an agreed price that works for both of you. If you are able to reach a better deal with them, for example, sell to them at the farm gate price, they would definitely turn their backs on all previous suppliers and start working with you. This doesn't necessarily mean settling for low prices. However, compromising a little in price and getting huge amounts of sales will still bring the cash you want in your pockets. Number 2 is local markets. Local markets and retail shops are another great way to get your maize into the market. These are the places people turn to when they need home stuff and food stuff urgently. That is a good opportunity to showcase your produce to a lot of people who may potentially be customers. You need to dry your maize to less than 13% moisture, sort to remove low quality ones, package it in 90 kilogram bags, and engage with retailers who will buy from you and sell. In my experience, you usually get better prices when you sell your produce this way. You will not get anything less than the wholesale price. Number 3, you can sell your maize to the Kenyan government. The Kenyan government purchases maize from farmers through the National Cereals and Produce Board to build the strategic food reserve and stabilize food supply and prices. If you want to sell to the National Cereals and Produce Board, dry your maize to less than 13.5 moisture content. Test it for aflatoxins and deliver it to their depots across the country. They buy the 90 kilogram bag at a stable price of 3,500 shillings. The last option I'll talk about is animal feed mills and animal farmers. As I mentioned earlier, livestock feed is one major area the Kenyan maize goes into. You should start by researching your area or even other localities you can transport your maize to for livestock feed mills and poultry feed mills. These business entities are looking for best deals that will promote their businesses as well. Go to them and reach an agreement with them and start supplying them your maize. And with that, I have given you the secret I use to sell my maize every time. What can you do to help me in return? What you can do right now is to subscribe to this channel, like the video, comment and share to anyone who may need it. That way YouTube will show my videos to many more people. On that note, go ye forth, grow and prosper in your dealings.